to another episode of Sonal Says. I just got back into Nairobi, and it's beautiful. It's really sunny, and I felt inspired to do this video for you guys. So recently I had an opportunity to meet a monk, and not just any monk. It's none other than Gaur Gopal Das, this guy here. Life's Amazing Secrets. It is so peculiar how this happened. I have been reading his book. So I was reading this book a couple of weeks ago, and sorry, the lighting is changing. I was reading his book a couple of weeks ago. I felt really inspired. I felt his energy, my mind, my soul, mentally, and it so happened that he visited Nairobi 2 weeks after I received this book. Ali actually gave me this book to read. So I was invited by a friend. It was a private function for a certain bank right here, and I was invited to guess whom hear talk. None other than Gaur Gopal Das G, and he is one of the most loved and widely known or followed monks of our time right now. He spoke of relationships, and when he spoke of relationships, I thought he's just going to touch base on, the surface of relationships, but oh my, was I wrong. He, first of all, is so charismatic. He has a way, his aura is magnetic to the audience, and he just keeps you glued. He's also very funny and a very hearty person to listen to. So it was a beautiful listen, and I learned many great things which I would like to share with you all. So speaking about relationships, and we all know relationships are complicated, and I don't mean relationships with your spouse. I mean every part of your life and the relationships you form. It could be your friends, your spouse, your girlfriends, your workmates, all the relationships that we have in life, right? Every person we meet in our life, you have a certain relationship with them. So as we know, relationships are complicated, and they are. And I learned a few valuable lessons. I'm reading my notes that I wrote right here. I learned a few valuable lessons. It was very interesting when he said relationships are investment and withdrawal. So very quickly I thought, okay, he's invited by a bank, so he's going to talk about the banking sector and relationships on there. But boy, was I wrong. So he spoke about investment and withdrawal. By investment, he meant investing in the relationships we have. Love, compassion, positivity, being sensitive to one another, accepting each other and our flaws, just all that you invest in a relationship, the affection, the compassion, the listening, all those are investments, he said. And the withdrawal part of it, which I'm going to get to in a minute, he said is the correction. So this, I just got stuck right there. Investment and withdrawal. How true. You invest in a relationship and then you withdraw. But then what is withdrawal? So he said that withdrawal is correction. He gave a fine example that when relationships sometimes are messy, or we love people and our relationship matters so much, and then how do we correct those people if they have erred or done something wrong? How do you correct it? He gave a great example. He was talking about a man who had gone to work, who was extremely tired, he was under pressure, he was not having a good day at all at the workplace, and he was miserable. Everything was going wrong for him at work, and he was very stressed out. This man comes home. When he comes home, his wife, welcomes him, so well dressed. She looked radiant and beautiful, and she's cooked a dinner for him. So she welcomes him, gives him a glass of water, and she sat him down, and she says, why don't you relax while I get the dinner on the table? And he thought to himself probably that, wow, at least something's going right in my life. And she serves the dinner, so it must have been some lentil curry or something. She serves the dinner, and he has a taste or a spoonful of the lentils, and it was completely bland. At this point, being him, he could have probably lashed out and said, oh my God, I've had a terrible day, oh my God, I've had a terrible day, and the last thing I would ever need is coming home to this. But you know what he did? On the contrary, he called his wife sat her on his lap and said, hey, I'd like to feed you also. Why don't you try this? And when he fed her, she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I forgot to add salt. So this was a beautiful way to correct her, instead of just, maybe saying you don't know anything, you don't know how to cook, blah, blah, blah. So that is the kind of withdrawal he spoke about. When you invest, make sure you know how to withdraw if there is something to withdraw, and in this case, correction. He said, whenever you want to practice withdrawal or the correction, always ask yourself these 4 questions. And the questions were always, and I, since that day, am practicing this. He said, ask yourself, am I the right person? For example, say, your friend's child or someone in school, another mom's child, is playing with something they should not, like a matchstick or a matchbox. At that point, would you correct the child? Yes, by all means, because you don't want the child to get hurt. But if a child is, for example, doing something like, I don't know, maybe scribbling on the wall or something, or not behaving proper, do you think you should just go and correct this child? So always ask. Probably no, right? Because you'd say, I don't think it's my place, and the mother should correct them. So I think what he meant is, ask yourself that, are you the right person? Am I the right person to be doing this? And then the second question, do I have the right motive? Which is amazing, because sometimes we want to correct somebody because we have a wrong agenda or motive. Say, someone said to you, someone was mean to you or did something wrong to you in the past, and now you have this opportunity, golden window, and you say to yourself, yeah, I'm going to seek revenge, so let me be the person to correct. So very often someone would step in and correct a person because they have the wrong motive. So ask yourself, do you have the right motive? Number 3, do you know the right way to do so? Now again, the same thing. How the husband corrected his wife because the food was bland. Do you know the right way to do so? He didn't just lash out at her, shout insults at her. So do you know the right way to do so? Question number 3. And probably the most important, which I have taken a valuable lesson from, is it the right time? For example, a child goes to school, they have exams, and they come home, and me being the mother, they didn't do well, and I'm like, okay, this is not right, you should have studied more, these grades are not sufficient enough, this was your doing, you have messed everything up. Already the child has had quite a stressful day because the exam did not go well. So is it the right time? You would rather wait for a week, let the child calm down, let it all go to pass, and then when the time is right, sit the child down and have a one-to-one with the child, because now that is the right time. So many times we hurt the people we love, the relationships we're in, because we did something in the wrong time. We should have waited. I am very much like that. I act immediately, and I have since learned, every time I want to do something or say something, or there's something, I should wait and think, is it the right time? So those are 4 great questions, and that's why I'm sharing this with you, because I think it's so important. I urge all of you to read this book. It's going to change your life, I assure you. Saying things in anger damages people, and it really does do a lot of damage. When you look in the mirror every day when you're dressing up, you look in the mirror and it's clean to start with. Like, I'm looking at this lens right now. It's clean to start with. Every day, it's the same routine. Get up, shower, brush your teeth, dress up, look in the mirror. Do you look presentable? Is your hair fine? Is your hair brushed? Whatnot. And every single day, this routine continues and you don't clean the mirror. And then continuously you keep looking, but the reflection you are looking at is slowly becoming dirty. And what I mean by that is, there's dust, there's pollution, there's dust, there's just things all over this mirror, spots, and the result of that is, and this is because of not cleaning this mirror. So every time you look into the mirror, you start seeing a dull, dirty image. So that reflection is not as clean as it used to be. So you start cleaning the mirror. That is why sometimes I feel like in relationships we see each other as we are. So if you do not clean the lens of your life or the mirror of your life, what you see eventually, if you don't clean this mirror, the dust and pollution, everything settles in, and what you see is going to reflect back at you and is not the real you, but it's an image that has been there because of all the clutter that is surrounded on that mirror. Meditation is a great thing, is a great healer, and I think also helps us in our relationships, because when we take time out to meditate, it could be 5 minutes a day, it could be just being alone, just thinking and reflecting about you as a person, kind of gives you an opportunity to see yourself through the window of your soul. And once we do this is how we can only be able to see others. If we are not clean, and if you cannot project a clean soul for yourself through meditation or any other way you prefer, then how else do you expect to see somebody else in the same light? I feel like mental clutter, if you don't meditate, can become worse. And once you meditate is the only way that now you put forth a clear picture of yourself, and that's how you see others more clearly. I also believe one thing very strongly, that how you treat your things eventually leads to how you treat people in your relationships. It could be shoes. For instance, you come from work and you're so tired, or your bag and your car keys, you just fling it, or you kick a bucket, or you just you just mistreat your things. I could be reading this book right now, and once I'm done, I'll just throw it around, throw my things around. I'm not tidy, and this is my mental state of mind. If you do not treat your things properly, it does lead to, try and notice this in other people or yourselves. If you don't treat and keep your things properly, this becomes a habit that you form, and then it also then translates into how you treat the people around you and your relationships. If you do not have any value for the things you have, like your book, your shoes, your coat, your bag, it could be all materialistic things or tangible, but then this transforms into the untangible behavior and pattern of ruining relationships. So I would definitely urge that you do look after your things, and that kind of leads you to be the person that you are, and also how you end up in forming the relationships you are in. Relationships aren't easy. He mentioned one point: money cannot buy happiness. And this is so true. Money cannot buy happiness. You know what does? Our relationships do. Our time and investment in people, their energies, that is what buys happiness. Today, I can sit here with great shoes, but do they make me laugh? They make me very happy, no doubt, but it is the relationships that I have, say my family, my children, my spouse, my friends. Those are the people you hang around with, and you really like burst out laughing, because that's happiness. Relationships are your happiness. He actually said there were 4 ways to perceive relationships, and also this I would like to share with you, because I felt these are extremely great values. And so he said, seeing the best in people is not always possible, which is true. I mean, we are human. And he explains again how we perceive people, sorry, not in 4, but in 5 ways. The first one would be to see the bad and magnify it. Now, these are the first type of people, or the first layer. See bad and magnify it. It almost is like looking at a negative Nancy, who always looks at the negative things of life and just magnifies it, only magnifies it. And this is not the way to perceive relationships, to be honest. So it's not the ideal stage, because it's going to make you very, very unhappy. Number 2, there are those types of people also who see the good, and then they see the bad, but they choose to ignore the good and focus only on the bad. So again, this is not a stage where I would recommend anyone to be, because try and see the little goodness around you, the great things. I'm sure they are if you look deeply. But what happens so often is that sometimes we breathe so much into negativity that all you can see is the negative. Although you have some good in your life, but you will only ponder on the negative. Number 3, see good and the bad and be neutral. Now, these are the kind of people who see the good and see the bad, but they can't be asked for either. They're just neutral, all right? And number 4, see the good, choose to focus on the good, and deal with the bad, or actually neglect it. Now this is the ideal stage he said you should be at. We see the good, we see the good, we appreciate it. We see the bad, we don't ignore it. Either we neglect it or we deal with it. And I think this is the ideal stage that we all should be at. We should see the good and the bad, but we should only focus on the good and magnifying that. And if you want to ignore the bad, ignore it, or actually better yet, deal with it. Yeah, I think that's the best. There's a man who was very frustrated in the office, and he went to his HR manager and said, I don't want to work here, I would like to quit, because everyone here is just gossiping all the time. It's not great for my energy, and I cannot work. No one works here. Everyone's gossiping about each other. No one has the zeal, the motivation, the ambition to work. HR manager says, no problem, I will take your resignation, but can you do one thing for me before I can accept it? He goes, sure. And the HR manager says to him, I want you to take a cup of water, fill it till the brim, make sure you do not spill even one drop, and come back. Take 3 round circles and come back to me. So the man said, okay, no problem. He took the glass and he walked around once, twice, and thrice. And as he was told, he did not pour even a drop of water. He does not drop even one drop of water. And he goes to the HR manager and says, here. HR manager says, amazing. Do you still want to...
Hi, Mom.
Hi. HR manager says, do you still want to quit? And he says, yes. So HR manager says, yes, you can do, but please answer these questions. While you were walking around the corridor, did you hear anybody gossip? He said, no. He said, did you hear anybody not do their work? Did you see anybody just loitering? He said, no. He asked him, did you hear anybody gossiping, not doing their work, just lazing around, demotivated? What did you see? He said, no, I never saw anything. So the HR manager said to him, exactly, that's because you concentrated on your cup full of water and made sure no drop of water pours down. And this is how life is. If you concentrate on your work, on your surrounding, on your positivity, then you have no time to listen to the noise of what is around you. Filter what applies to you, keep what doesn't, is just plain noise. If you concentrate so much on your own work, positive energy, your growth, your mental health, your happiness, then you wouldn't have time to see what other people around you are focused on. I think that is how life is. You cannot control everyone and everything around you. You can only control yourself. You can only control your focus. You can only control how you look at things. Again, going back to what he said, Gaur Gopal Das, you can only control your focus. What do you want to focus on? The good and magnify it, or the bad and deal with it and come back to the good? To be better in our relationships, we must better ourselves. We must ignore and neglect the negativity. Negativity is part of life. Bad things happen, many bad things happen, but it is what we choose and how we choose to react to these situations is what actually makes us happy in our life and our relationships. And it is not easily attainable, but if we think about it and we meditate about it, I think it's pretty okay to see the good and the bad, deal with the good and neglect the bad. I think that is a choice we have to make every day, and it is a choice that we have to practice every single day. And yeah, number 5 is see good and magnify it, which is impossible. I think only God can see good and magnify it all the time. And I think maybe him, because you have to attain a level of spirituality or a level of being selfless to see only that, which is very different. It's difficult. I mean, when I think about it, it's very, very difficult, guys. So guys, I shall now leave you with this quote. The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn. Okay guys, until I see you in the next time, lots of love and light. But before I go, I will teach you a new Swahili word, and today's word will be secret. So say it with me, Siri. Say it with me, Siri. Lots of love and light.